Some truths are too sacred to be shouted, and some betrayals are too small to deserve your voice. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. That's a truth the wise have known for centuries and the wounded learn through time. We live in a world that teaches reaction as survival. We're told to speak up, clap back, prove them wrong, expose the disrespect, and stand our ground with words. But there's a deeper kind of strength that doesn't clamor to be seen. There is a boldness in silence, and not everyone has the discipline to wield it. You see, when someone disrespects you, they expect a response. They're counting on it. They want to see you flinch, rage, break character, step out of your peace. And when you don't, when you sit back with a calm, they cannot understand. It unsettles them more than any insult could. Because silence says, I saw what you did, but I won't hand you the power to see me crumble. That kind of self-possession, it shakes the ground beneath people who rely on chaos to validate themselves. Silence is not about avoiding conflict out of fear. It's about choosing your battles with wisdom. You don't need to prove anything to people who already made up their minds about you. You don't need to lower yourself to meet someone at the level they fell to in order to hurt you. There is strength in restraint. There is power in choosing not to bleed publicly every time someone tries to cut you. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Sometimes the fact that you said nothing echoes longer in the heart of the one who tried to shame you, because silence leaves space for their own conscience to speak. Words can be deflected, denied, twisted, but silence settles. It lingers. It makes people confront themselves in a way your yelling never could. It also gives you back your time, your focus, your peace. Every moment you spend reacting to someone's immaturity or cruelty is a moment stolen from your growth. And I need you to understand this clearly. Not every attack deserves your attention. Not every slight deserves a sermon. If you answered every dog that barked at you, you'd never get where you were going, and you, my dear, have somewhere to be. What silence really offers is agency, the power to pause, to assess, to make a decision not from heat, but from clarity. When you stay quiet, you are buying yourself time to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. That pause between action and reaction, that's where your freedom lives. That's where you choose not to let someone else's low moment define your own. There is also dignity in silence, a regal kind of calm that doesn't need to defend itself. You ever seen a lion react to every barking hyena? No, because the lion knows who it is. And so must you. People will talk, they'll mock, they'll throw their projections like knives in the dark. But if you waste your breath catching every lie and disrespect, you'll never build the life you deserve. Better to keep moving with purpose while they stay behind, shouting at your shadow. Silence is not always easy, especially when you've been hurt deeply, especially when someone tries to strip you of your value, your worth, your name. But in those moments, you must remember, true power doesn't need to be noisy. You are not made smaller by your silence. You are made stronger by it, because silence says, I know my worth, and I will not let your ignorance disrupt my peace. People often think silence is passive, but it's not. It is active. It is conscious. It is sharp and deliberate. It is choosing the high road, not because you can't fight, but because you've fought enough to know where that road leads. You don't need to win arguments with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to explain your growth to those who never showed up for your healing. Silence is a tool of the emotionally mature. It is how you conserve your energy for things that matter. Let others waste their breath trying to be right. You focus on being whole. Let them think they got the last word, because the last word is not the same as the last say. Karma will always finish the conversation. Life has a way of circling back, and when it does, your silence will be remembered, not as weakness, but as evidence that you were always operating on a different frequency. You didn't respond because you didn't have to. Because silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. The kind of strategy that builds empires, protects peace, and lets your integrity speak long after the noise fades. There comes a moment when the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not because you're empty, but because you're full. Full of knowing, full of clarity, full of strength that no longer needs to chase validation. When someone disrespects you, mocks your journey, downplays your worth, it's tempting to correct them, to explain yourself, to try to shape how they see you. But let me tell you something timeless. When you stay quiet, you turn the mirror back on them, and what they see in that silence will teach them more than your words ever could. You don't need to drag someone into awareness. You don't need to raise your voice for someone who's made a choice to be blind. Some people are not ready for truth, not because the truth isn't available, but because it threatens the comfort of their illusions. When you respond with silence, when you stop trying to convince someone of your value, you return the lesson to the one who needs it most, the person who tried to devalue you in the first place. People are rarely changed by confrontation, but they are often transformed by reflection. And silence creates that space. Silence holds up a mirror that no shouting can shatter. It's uncomfortable, it's confronting, it's the absence of distraction. And in that absence, people are left with themselves. No performance to react to, no deflection, just their own behavior looking back at them. Let them sit in it. Let them wonder why you didn't respond. Let them feel the absence of your energy, your attention, your peace. Because often that absence speaks the loudest. When you step away without fanfare, without a storm, you leave them to face the stillness of their own choices. That's when they begin to ask questions, not about you, but about themselves. And that's the beginning of real growth if it's ever going to happen. There's a reason silence is so unsettling to the ones who thrive on control. Your stillness exposes their noise. Your restraint highlights their chaos. It reminds them that not everyone will play their game. And that is power. That is grace. That is a lesson in accountability they never saw coming. Sometimes people don't realize what they've done until there's nothing left to react to. The fire dies when there's no air. And in your silence, they are forced to see what they created and what they lost. It is not your job to punish, to lecture, or to correct every misstep against your soul. That work belongs to life, to time, and to their own conscience. You have to be willing to leave people with themselves, to let them wrestle with the echo of their own actions. That's not cruelty, it's mercy in disguise. Because truthfully, the deepest lessons are the ones we teach ourselves. And if someone is ever going to grow, it won't be because you shouted at them. It will be because something inside them stirred in the silence you left behind. Don't underestimate how loud your absence can be. Don't forget how disarming it is when someone expects fire and receives calm. That calm is sacred. That calm is your protection. That calm is the quiet wisdom of knowing you are not here to carry another's guilt just to make them comfortable. You're here to live free. It's not your responsibility to educate someone who refused to listen when your heart was still open. That time has passed. And now what they must learn, they will learn alone, through their own reflection, through the emptiness where your laughter used to be, through the peace they feel when your name is no longer mentioned in bitterness, but in wonder. Because silence, real silence, is not avoidance. It's not passive. It's a boundary. It's a closed door. It's the sound of self-respect. And if someone cannot learn from that, then they were never going to learn from your words either. Let life be the teacher. Let your silence be the curriculum. Let their reflection be their test. You are not the answer to someone else's self-inflicted questions. You are not the correction to their insecurity. You are not the vessel for their growth. You are the reminder that disrespect has a cost. And when you walk away without explaining, without excusing, without looking back, you leave behind the greatest lesson of all. You will not be moved by anything less than love. And that lesson, that stays with them long after you're gone. Your value doesn't require a defense. It never did. Yet how many times have you found yourself explaining, proving, trying to justify your worth to people who never truly saw you? How many nights have you replayed conversations in your head, wishing you'd said more, wishing you'd stood taller, trying to make someone understand a heart they were never built to hold? It's a painful place. To be misunderstood, to be overlooked, to be disrespected. The natural response is to defend, to gather evidence of your goodness, to make a case for your dignity like you're on trial. But beloved, you are not on trial. You are not a verdict waiting for someone's approval. You are not a summation of how people treat you. You are a whole truth all by yourself. And truth doesn't beg. When someone disrespects you, when they twist your intentions, when they diminish your light, it's not a reflection of your lack. It's a reflection of their limits. Some people are so unfamiliar with self-worth that they try to shrink others to match the size of their own fear. But don't shrink, don't bend, don't waste your sacred energy trying to convince someone of a value that was never theirs to measure. The need to defend often comes from wounds, childhoods where we had to explain our emotions, relationships where love was earned through struggle, families where silence was misread as weakness. So we grow up believing that we have to justify our pain, our boundaries, our dreams, that we need to prove we are enough just to be treated with decency. But I want to remind you, you were enough the moment you were born. Your worth isn't built on achievement or recognition. It's not built on who stays or who claps for you. It's not built on being chosen. You are worthy because you exist. And you don't need to fight to keep that truth alive. Think of the sky. It doesn't explain why it holds the sun or the stars. It doesn't justify the thunder or the calm. It just is. And the people who learn to sit beneath it, to admire it, to respect it, they are the ones who belong in its presence. Let that be you. Let your value be so rooted that you no longer perform for those who look away. Defending your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you is like pouring water into a sieve. No matter how eloquent your words, how open your heart, how deep your sincerity, it will never be enough for someone who refuses to hold space for your truth. And that's not your failure, that's their limitation. There's a quiet kind of freedom that comes when you stop defending yourself, when you stop arguing with people who misrepresent your spirit, when you realize that not every insult is worth a reply, when you allow your actions, your consistency, your growth to be the only proof you ever offer, because those who truly see you don't need convincing, and those who demand explanations will never be satisfied by them. Let your peace be your protest. Let your presence be your answer. Let your refusal to engage in every battle be the clearest sign that you know who you are. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your intentions. You don't have to explain why you chose healing, why you chose silence, why you chose to walk away. Your life is not an open courtroom. It's a sacred journey, and not everyone gets to have a say in it. When you truly know your worth, disrespect becomes background noise. Not because it doesn't sting, but because it no longer centers your choices. You don't pivot to please. You don't crumble to be understood. You rise. You keep moving. You keep building a life so rooted in authenticity that approval becomes irrelevant. Your worth is not a currency to be traded. It is a legacy to be carried. And the more you embrace it, the more you will attract people who do not require explanations, only presence. People who honor your space, who listen when you whisper and respect you when you roar. People who do not measure you by what you give, but by who you are. And until those people arrive, be that person for yourself. Stand in your truth. Know that your worth is not a campaign. It's a knowing. And that knowing will carry you through every room, every relationship, every season of life with your head held high and your spirit untouched. Because your value doesn't need a defense. It needs a witness. And the first witness should always be you. There will be moments when someone walks into your life not with peace, not with purpose, but with chaos tucked neatly beneath a smile. They might pretend they came with kindness. They may call it love, friendship, or even family, but soon enough their energy will start to tell a different story, a story full of disorder, disrespect, and emotional noise. And when it all unravels, they will try to hand you the pen and say, write yourself here, be the villain, be the overreactor, be the one who made this messy. But hear me clearly. Don't let them write your character with their chaos. You are not required to co-author confusion. You are not obligated to participate in their dysfunction simply because they invited you into it. People who live in emotional disorder often need others to act out the scenes they can't admit they're responsible for. So they provoke, they manipulate, they twist, and when you finally react, they point the finger and say, see, you're the problem. It's a cycle as old as pain. They plant the storm and blame you for the thunder. But this is where your power rises, not in how loud you shout back, not in how well you defend yourself, but in how calmly you walk out of the scene. You don't have to stay in someone's emotional theater just because they handed you a costume. You don't have to lose your peace just to match their passion, because the moment you allow chaos to dictate your character, you lose authorship of your own story. You see, people will bait you into being someone you're not. They'll push your boundaries. They'll poke your spirit. They'll say things they know cut deep, because when you bleed, they feel justified in their own wounds. But you have to stop meeting people in their dysfunction. Let them flail. Let them rage. Let them spin their narrative. You stay still. You stay rooted. You stay honest with yourself. That is not weakness. That is mastery. That is what emotional integrity looks like in a world that often rewards reaction over reflection. You have to understand, some people don't want resolution. They want reaction. They want a mess because mess is what they're familiar with. And when you don't give it to them, they will call you cold, detached, uncaring. Let them. Let them throw labels at your silence. Let them draw conclusions about your calm. None of it defines you, because you've learned that reacting to chaos doesn't heal it. It feeds it. And more than anything, protect your peace. Guard it like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Don't let someone else's instability cost you your clarity. Don't let someone's inability to love you properly make you question how lovable you are. Their chaos is not your reflection. It is not your report card. It is not your burden to carry. It's tempting to explain. It's human to want to clear your name, defend your choices, correct the lies. But sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all. Just walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you've started to care more about your healing than their opinion, because your peace has become more valuable than your pride. Let them talk. Let them spin their version of events. Let them build their story on half-truths and projection, because the people who matter, the people who see your heart, who know your character, who recognize your quiet grace, they won't be swayed by noise. They'll feel your truth even in your silence. Don't be afraid to be misunderstood. Don't be afraid to be misrepresented. The truth doesn't panic. It doesn't rush to catch up with gossip. It doesn't argue to be believed. It simply waits, because the truth knows. It always outlasts the lie. And so must you. Hold your line. Hold your voice. Hold your dignity. You are not made for emotional tug-of-wars. You are not made for performance-based worth. You are not made to be written into stories that try to reduce your grace to someone else's confusion. You are made of something deeper, something steadier. You are made of still waters that remember their depth, even when the surface is disturbed. You are made of quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need applause to be real, the kind that doesn't disappear when someone doubts it. So the next time someone tries to draw you into their drama, remember this. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to dignify every accusation with a defense. You don't have to accept every version of you someone creates to excuse their own behavior. You don't owe anyone a place in your story who is trying to rewrite you in their chaos. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself wholeness. You owe yourself the right to move forward without dragging someone else's dysfunction behind you like a chain. And when they see you walking away, calm, steady, unmoved, they will feel it. Even if they never admit it, even if they never apologize, they will feel the weight of their own choices in the space your silence leaves behind. You are not theirs to define. You are not a character in their chaos. You are the author of your own grace. And that, beloved, is the kind of power that can't be shaken. There's something about the quiet before the storm that speaks more loudly than thunder ever could. Karma doesn't come crashing through the door with drama or noise. No, it arrives quietly, sometimes slowly, sometimes invisibly, but always with precision. It watches, it waits, and when it moves, it doesn't need applause, because karma isn't chaos, it's correction. It's not revenge, it's restoration. And before it ever roars, it whispers. You don't have to chase justice when life already knows how to deliver it. You don't have to orchestrate consequences when the universe is already balancing every equation. Every insult, every betrayal, every wound meant to humiliate you or break you, it has already been accounted for. You're not forgotten. And more importantly, you're not alone in your silence. The timing of truth doesn't belong to you. It belongs to something far wiser. You see, karma doesn't always look like downfall or disaster. Sometimes it shows up as distance, as loss, as people watching the same door they slam shut, never open again. Sometimes it's waking up to realize they can no longer reach you, that their control has expired, that their power over your emotions has dissolved. That's karma, the quiet kind, the irreversible kind, the kind that teaches through absence, not attack. You don't have to match the cruelty of those who wounded you. You don't have to carry bitterness just to prove you were hurt. Your peace is the proof. Your growth is the evidence that you could be disrespected and still rise without dragging anyone through the mud. That's a strength not many understand. But karma does, and it pays close attention. Sometimes the greatest lesson is this: not everything needs your reaction. Not every wrong deserves your voice. Because when you hold your silence, when you let go instead of lashing out, karma speaks where your words would have only added noise. It speaks in timing, in turnarounds, in ways only the soul can recognize. And when it speaks only to those who need to hear it. Let them misjudge you. Let them assume your silence is weakness. Let them laugh. Let them gloat. Let them tell their version of the story. You don't need to correct the lie when karma already knows the truth. The longer you stay silent, the louder your life becomes. The more you heal, the more they'll have to sit with the truth they once tried to cover in lies. Karma is not about punishment. It's about pattern. The energy you put out always circles back. The disrespect someone gave you will visit them again, not because you wished it, but because that's how energy works. And just as love returns to the giver, so does harm. You don't have to be there when it happens. You don't even have to hope for it. Trust that life doesn't miss. Sometimes the whisper comes in regret, In a moment when someone who betrayed you sees a reflection of themselves and can't bear the weight of it. Sometimes it comes when they need you and you've already outgrown needing them. Sometimes it comes as silence, your absence speaking volumes they never expected to hear. And when karma finally roars, it doesn't ask for your permission. It simply arrives and reminds. So be still, keep growing, keep tending to your peace. That doesn't mean you're ignoring what was done to you. It means you've risen so far above it, you no longer need to burn in the same fire that tried to consume you. That's strength, that's victory, that's your roar. Let life teach the lessons. Let time reveal what your voice doesn't need to say. Trust that every time you chose grace over revenge, you weren't losing. You were setting the stage for something greater. And when karma whispers, it's not to warn, it's to promise. Everything finds its way back, eventually. There's something deeply poetic about the way life moves, how it doesn't always respond immediately, how it doesn't always answer in the moment you expect. But rest assured, it always responds. That's what karma is, not lightning from the sky or instant punishment delivered with dramatic flair. No, karma is a whisper before it's a roar. It comes with precision, not panic. It waits, not because it's absent, but because it's wise. And when it speaks directly to the soul of the one who needs to learn. When someone disrespects you, betrays you, or underestimates your heart, your first instinct might be to react, to correct the lie, to demand justice, to confront the pain. But there is a greater power in letting go and letting life speak for you. There is a strength that blooms in silence, in not lowering your voice to match someone else's chaos, in not throwing your peace away just to make a point. You don't need to become what tried to break you. You don't need to participate in the drama to prove you were harmed. The pain itself already tells the truth. And karma listens when no one else does. Karma does not rush. It's not in a hurry to prove what's already been set into motion. The energy someone puts into the world eventually finds its way home. Sometimes that journey is long, winding, delayed, but it is never lost. And when it returns, it doesn't need you to be present for the lesson. In fact, most of the time, you'll have already moved on. You'll be somewhere lighter, freer, more healed, while they're just beginning to sit in the silence of what they sowed. The beauty of karma is that it does not need an audience. It doesn't need performance. It doesn't announce itself with grand gestures. It arrives in the stillness of a life that no longer welcomes the energy that once disrupted it. Karma is often the realization someone has when they can no longer reach you, when your peace becomes untouchable, when your light no longer shines for them, when the version of you they tried to break no longer exists. And that moment, that's louder than any argument you could have had. There is no need to shout when the universe already knows the truth. And there is no need to fight for validation when life itself becomes your vindication. When you stop showing up to battles that were never yours to begin with, you're not backing down. You're stepping into power. Because real strength isn't in how much noise you make. It's in how firmly you stand in your truth, even when that truth is misunderstood, misrepresented, or mocked. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them paint you as cold, distant, unbothered. Because when karma finally moves, when it finally makes its presence known, there will be no confusion about what's happening. Not because you explained it, not because you fought for it, but because their soul will recognize it. That's how karma works. It doesn't seek revenge, it seeks revelation. It turns the mirror toward those who refuse to look before. You don't need to wish anyone harm. That's not your role. You don't need to watch for their downfall or wait for their regret. That's not your responsibility. Your only job is to keep growing, to keep healing, to keep protecting your peace like it's the most sacred thing you own, because it is. The moment you choose not to carry bitterness, the moment you release the desire for revenge, you elevate. And that elevation is something karma honors. Sometimes karma looks like someone watching you thrive in the exact space they tried to bury you. Sometimes it looks like a person sitting with their own choices, day after day, realizing what they lost when they mishandled someone who came with pure intentions. And other times, karma doesn't come with sadness at all. It comes with your joy, your laughter, your calm. That's the roar. It's in the life you built after the storm. So don't worry if they didn't apologize. Don't chase explanations. Don't revisit old wounds looking for closure from people who were never honest enough to give it. Closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. It's choosing to accept the apology that never came. It's choosing to be free instead of being right. It's knowing that karma has never missed a single step and it never will. The truth is, some people only understand the weight of what they've done when they experience it for themselves. And when that moment arrives, when they sit in the same kind of disregard they once gave, when they feel the silence they once forced you to carry, that's the whisper. It doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be felt, and it will be. Let your life speak. Let your peace echo louder than your pain. Let your growth tell the story, because the ones who once tried to reduce you will have no choice but to see the very truth they denied, reflected back at them in the life you now live. That is karma's language, clear, calm, complete. And when it finally roars, you won't need to say a word. So stay quiet, not because you're weak, but because you've grown, because the soil that once needed to fight now blossoms in grace. Let them speak their shallow truths. Let karma do her ancient work. And when it's over, you'll still be standing, not because you fought, but because you didn't have to.